Hello and welcome to Reach Live. My name is Rena Such. I'm the head of digital and connected health at Ipsos, and I'm the host of Reach Live. We are here every month, at the end of each month, with a digital health leader, someone who is challenging the field, changing the face of healthcare, putting themselves into new and interesting situations to help bring a new solution to market. Today's episode is going to be very, very interesting. It's on a topic which I care deeply about and something which I feel is under discussed, which is addiction. Mental health, behavioral health is one of the breakout areas of digital health investment. It's one of the spaces where we're seeing technology solutions really come to the forefront. However, there's a lot of areas still that need recognition and attention. And for that, I welcome Dominique, my guest today on Reach Live, to firstly give an introduction to herself before we get into her solution and what she's developing. So, Dominique, welcome, and please give us an introduction.
Good morning. Thank you, Rena. My name's Dominique Simone Levine. I'm the founder and the director of Allies in Recovery. We are an online program that serves the families of people with addiction. We created a program back in 2015 that provides the families access to a little known but extremely important approach called CRAFT, Community Reinforcement and Family Training. So we took this academic approach, translated it to an online site for the end user, for the family.
So, how did you come to know about this form of therapy? Tell us a little bit about your journey.
Okay, so I was a couple years into grad school, going for a PhD in anthropology. I had entered recovery a couple years prior to entering the school and found that academia was a good place to hide. So I went all the way and spent 8 years, my first 8 years in recovery in grad school. There, I took a job with a research firm that worked in addictions. I was very happy to also be working on something domestically as well as my work in Africa. I came across the approach called CRAFT, Community Reinforcement and Family Training, at a federal government meeting I was attending. I was so thrilled to see something that research looked and put together the best practices for the family of somebody with addiction. So what does communication look like? What does your behavior look like? What are your safety issues? So there were a number of things that got put together in this approach, and it was designed for master level clinicians, and wasn't getting disseminated because it's a unilateral approach for the family. So there was not a whole lot known about CRAFT. There were very few practitioners that used it. I myself come from a family we're awash in addictions and behavioral health issues. I was thrilled to see that, there's a popular culture out there, and it suggests things like there's nothing you can do until somebody wants to go into recovery. They're best just left alone. They have to hit a bottom of some kind. And these are messages that have come through from the traditions of 12 steps of Alcoholics and Narcotics Anonymous, but that were never really driven by data or by science. They're just ideas. And this approach by these researchers out at the University of New Mexico, Robert Myers, William Miller, the father of motivational interviewing, for those of you in the field, Jane Ellen Smith, who wrote a 275-page manual for master level clinicians. They were the ones that put this together in a way that started me thinking that there must be a way to provide better access to this approach, to provide an easier access to the approach, then 12 sessions with a master level clinician. So back in 2003, we started Allies in Recovery. We are the longest single practitioners of CRAFT. And in 2015, I put it online. We were online prior to COVID, so we were a little ahead of the game when COVID hit.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing kind of the journey that you've been through. I find it very inspirational. And as someone who has lost family members to addiction personally, I can understand and know the helplessness that happens around that individual. And one thing I think is important to discuss is I use the word neglect, the neglect of the family members in the process, because it's so entrenched right now on the individual. They're going through what they're going through, and family members feel really helpless in that. So when I hear this therapy, this support, this program, it just makes me think, wow, wouldn't it be amazing if we could get this into the hands of everyone? Because knowledge is power, right? What we know, we can do something with. And there's so much like misinformation as well in terms of how to handle it. So tell me your journey there. I mean, you must have heard many testimonials of that kind, but what can we do to shine a light more on families and caregivers?
Sure. Well, first off, I'm very sorry to hear about the loss in your own family. 40% of Americans, when asked, have a loved one with addiction. For us, loved ones are the people with addiction. That's 40% of Americans. Anytime somebody gets lost to addiction, there's an entire family behind them that suffers greatly. And when you have somebody in your life, it be a son or daughter, a husband, a wife, a sister, a grandparent, a good friend, it's very frightening, and you do feel quite helpless. There are, as I said, some popular ideas out there, but there's nothing really until CRAFT came around. There was nothing that was really evidence-based, well studied, well thought through, and manageable to undertake for families. Families suffer as much, I would say, as the person with addiction. They're terrified, they're worried, they're angry, they feel obligated, they have tremendous love, they feel passionate about wanting to do something, and they have literally been just sort of closed out of the entire system. And that's more true in the US, I think, than maybe in other countries, but it is such a individually based system. We put all our focus on the person with addiction, and families have largely been left out. They are, we don't know very well what their struggles are, what their medical concerns are, what can we do if we train and support them and provide them resources. The power and influence that a family has is beyond any other for reaching in and connecting with a loved one who's lost, who's resistant, who's frightening everybody in the family. So it's as important as the person with addiction. And I'm just starting to see this small sort of shift in the paradigm where families are being recognized not just as noise in the system for the provider to sort of put aside or block because of privacy or confidential reasons, but providing access and integrated into a system that allows them the power that they have and to at least learn, understand, calm down, take a pause, understand the strategy you want to take, which is sort of classical behaviorism. Step in when you don't see use and reward, step away, take away those rewards, allow natural consequences when you do see use. Do it in the day, not for a lifetime. Don't kick them out for 6 months. This is about how you can create in the day a moment of connection and a moment where that resistance can go down, and perhaps a conversation in a small amount of time can happen around, you're going to need more. This isn't working. You're still drinking. We're all very scared here. Here's a list. Here's some options. We love you. We're here. We're not going anywhere, right? And when you partner and connect like that, you create such an ignition, an engagement, an ability to not be all alone with your own addiction, as I had been myself in my 20s and early. But you have this hand reaching in. So for the person with addiction, it's an amazing program. 2/3 of families get their loved ones into hardcore treatment, let alone a pickup game on a Monday night at the YMCA or something. But it provides the family with a framework, an easy to understand framework. It's not easy to do framework, though. You have to change yourself. It's about how you control what part of this you control, which is your own self. So it's your own communication, your own behavior, your own responses, right? But it's so satisfying to see these families get just a little bit of success and then keep going and keep going. And to find that what we've done online, the outcomes are really exciting. We're showing that we're as effective as the treatment as it was in studies. We don't have the sophisticated, tight designed analysis that I would like, but our member surveys, our qualitative data shows that we're striking in so many families who have not known what to do, and there is not much out there that really provides the technical, the skill building, as well as the behaviors and as well as the resources.
It's incredible. I mean, I'm a big believer of collectivism and bringing everyone in, because when a family member suffers in a disease, in a diagnosis, in addiction, everybody gets involved. There is an impact on everyone, and there's a cost there. There's a cost to the health system. There's a cost to employment. I've known individuals to deprioritize their careers, to take part-time work, and that's the cost to economy. And I see a growing evidence now towards caregivers overall, not just speaking in the frame of addiction, but just in other forms. The recognition of what carers do day to day, what loved ones do day to day for their loved one. Let's get into, so I think we've established really clearly the premise, why it's important. I don't think there'll be a person listening who doesn't believe it's important. But let's talk about the challenge of taking a therapy, which happens face to face, and bringing it online. What compelled you firstly to do it? And then tell me about that journey, because I can imagine it's been a lot of learning.
It has been a lot of learning. It's been a lot of accidental learning. I didn't set out to be the CEO of a digital health company. I set out to create an accessible an accessible version of this approach that didn't demand 12 sessions with a master level clinician, but rather took these teachings and broke them up into so there's a lot of skills in learning craft. You learn how to communicate I statements, understand statements. You learn how to listen. So there's active listening and what that looks like. There's strategies that you need to learn about how to step in and how to step away and how to do that safely. So all of these things, the skills and the strategies, what we did was we created groups that teach all of those things separately. The online e-learning work was done originally, and that was in 2015. And for that, I worked with a very wonderful man, David Scherer, who had been involved in some of the early New Mexico studies of this approach. And together we took that 275-page manual and we created scripts for 8 modules. We took the whole thing down to 8 modules, 8 basic principles that you can learn. The idea was to be able to put like the Y does, or the Red Cross does, if you see someone drowning, there's like 3 steps on the wall. Well, we have 8 steps. And if you can remember those 8 steps, you can pull them out and you can pull out that particular toolkit, and you can apply what you need. You can assess whether it works, and then you can try and improve on it. So that's what we did. 100 minutes for 8 videos, down to 3 to 5 minute segments. It's not very fancy. I had at that time $10,000 to spend, so we did what we could with $10,000. What we did, some very nice scripts and very nice videos that have really held up, along with databasing exercises so that you build the awareness of your situation. So we ask you a lot of questions over 21 exercises about your situation so that you build an awareness of what's going on, what to look for, at what moment do you decide your loved one is using or is not using in that moment. So there's a lot of that kind of skill building. Those 8 modules and exercises kept us going until COVID. And the results that we got from just that e-learning it's unbelievable. I get 80% of respondents who say they were extremely helped in reducing the worry, the anxiety, the frustration. 70% extremely helped in improving the communication between themselves and their loved one. And if we remember what resolves addiction, how does addiction get treated? It gets treated by people in connection. And if you can teach the family member how to connect with their loved one, and that loved one to connect with the family in a stronger interaction, you have basically that bridge that you can then go and be much more influential, right? So we have now established, since 2021, a suite of groups, skills groups, emotional support groups. That one has to be led by a master level clinician. Everything else does not. There's skills, there's strategies. You learn a strategy, you learn a tactic, but it's much cheaper to provide. I mean, we've gone from, let's say, 12 private sessions, $2,500. We're providing full craft training for $25 to a family.
Yeah, it's incredible. How has it been received in terms of the business side of it? How are you focusing how are we getting the platform into people's lives, into their hands? What's been that process?
Originally, I felt that I would wanted to see institutions and medical systems and universities pay the price of a license to our site. That has worked, but it's been slow. States, we have the state of Massachusetts. We have counties like Palm Beach County, Florida. We have behavioral treatment centers, but they're not many. Families, you have to convince the funder, the payer, that the family is important, and then you have to look for a separate budget for family-only services, which is really non-existent in most state, at least in state institutions. So it's been a bit of a slog, I have to say, trying to get soft money or government dollars to look at this program. So what happened is I did 2 things. We started training low-end facilitators, people who could interact with the site and be a warm handoff for us, from the family to the site. And so in community recovery organizations, which is what's growing up around the US everywhere today, these low threshold walk-in centers where you can find a recovery coach who will talk to you if you're interested in learning anything about addiction or needing any help. Now these recovery coaches have a basic understanding of our site through our training and do a soft, warm handoff, if you will, to the families of the people they serve. So in one moment, you are now providing a complete online service to the surrogates of the person with addiction. The other thing we've done is we went business to consumer, and it took us a while to figure out what works best, but we have landed on social media campaigns that are running at about 120 to 140% ROI. And that's with a hard sell offer. That's with no come in and trial, no try this for, check this out for free. It's come on in for $159 for 6 months. So I'm very excited about that because it's much more sustainable than a government or a funder, any kind of organization might be. So we have it in 3 ways, and that facilitator training that we do provides us on the ground connection and the cultural congruency, if you will, of people on the ground getting our site, and facilitators that are of the people that they're serving, providing that information and that handoff. So that's going to serve us well, and I do see us as really recovery coaches, people on the ground, really do see the benefits of handing us off to the family member.
I mean, huge congrats, firstly, from an entrepreneurial perspective, for what you've created and got. You've got product in market, and it's serving people, and that's no mean feat, to get to that stage. And I know there's still many more steps to go because we want this everywhere. We want it to be accessible to many, many individuals and globally. One aspect we really care about here at Reach, and we talk about often, is health equity and design and culture. And coming from an Asian background, South Asian background, there's a lot that goes on. It's well documented, actually. Addiction, particularly alcoholism, within the Asian community is rife. There's a lot of suppression, for instance, for some reasons for it, ubiquity as well, of accessibility of it. And there's been a lot of specific centers created with, based on language and having individuals who understand the culture and the cultural context of things. So one question I have for you is, what about the cultural nuances? How much, with a medical anthropology background, I know you care about culture. So tell me a bit more about that.
Yeah. Well, what's nice is that what craft is really in 8 modules or 8 principles are some rather universal ideas, like behaviorism, stepping in and rewarding when you see something you want to reoccur, or stepping away, removing rewards and allowing natural consequences. That's a universal behaviorist meta theory, right? It works for humans, it works for dolphins, most dogs, and so that then needs to be applied down onto a very specific culture. So whether it's facilitators that mediate that and provide it as groups on the ground with our curriculum in the background, so that when you're talking about what are you going to remove for a reward, that answer is culturally embedded. It may vary from group to group. So being able to do partially on the ground live with the constituencies of local groups is one way to make sure that the translation culturally happens properly. The other way is what we've done is we created these Spanish novellas, which we've only done one right now, but it's like a graphic novel, like you have bubbles with very little words, but you tell this story. And we have the story of this Puerto Rican family in Springfield, Massachusetts, whose adult son became addicted to opioid pills after some esophageal problem. And you follow not him, which is what typically you would follow, but you follow the family. You understand what it means to be his mother, what it means to be his wife, what it means to share children with him and have to negotiate these periods of use very extreme IV drug use, lots of overdoses, lots of treatment centers. Over 13 years, you follow this family, and you really understand the depth of the pain that they suffer, but also the resilience and the cultural pieces that held them together, such as their church, such as the mother and the daughter holding together. But you also see in this Spanish novella, you see how the wife would never stop her husband from seeing the children. That his being a father needed to be honored above all, and doing that and needing to do that to such an extent meant that she missed moments where she should have been maybe the children as a reward in the day, right? Because he came over high, or but you have to understand the depth of that that love and the respect that you show the father of children. And so the Puerto Rican cultures, at least the ones that we followed and talk about in our Spanish novella, you see the importance of culture at every turn, of course, and that's why we make these novellas very specific to a family in a Spanish-speaking area with the material culture and the values and of the local group.
Mm.
It
Love
works
that.
very well, it works at illiterate. So, and we're going to put it on a free app, and then and people will watch them because they're entertaining and well done, as well as instructive for the family.
Yeah, accessibility of message is everything. So visual medium is fantastic for that. Extending yourselves into cultural contexts which work for individuals is really a wonderful way of increasing literacy and access. So much has happened. You've had a personal journey that's led you to want to give back and want to create a solution unexpectedly. As you said, you didn't expect to become an entrepreneur or head up a digital health company. You've created a platform. You've created a technology platform that's working, that's available. You're doing direct social media marketing and converting. You have some B2B relationships as well. What's next? Where do you want this to go?
Well, I mean, I have ideas of what the modules and the e-learning could look like. Of course, bells and whistles, gaming and animation, and so much we've learned about what makes something sticky and even addictive. So I have people in the gaming industry helping me to create the next version of the e-learning. The really exciting part is artificial intelligence. We're working with Achilix out of Portland, Oregon. They've developed something called the DXCell set of platforms, in which there's this adaptive knowledge engine, and you can give that engine outside data. So we collect narratives of families that write us, and we write back and that sort of thing. We provide our expert craft analysis to their situations. So we have natural language data that this adaptive knowledge engine will accept. And into that, we also are allowed to write only as surrogates into this engine. So family members will be able to provide information into the system about their loved ones and about themselves, but about their loved ones especially. Perhaps there was something that was missed by doctors. Perhaps the loved one is lacking insight. But family members have a great deal of information, and this is going to be an opportunity for them to contribute that information into a system that will eventually kick out um, dangerous events, risk of opioid overdose, but also opportunities and options, because this is the sort of work we do. This is what's going to be going into it. It's like you you have risks, and you have resiliencies, and so all of this would go in and start to predict and provide a prescription for family members.
Exciting. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
there is so much to build upon, right? You have a foundation, and now thinking about the next tiers and next levels and predictive analytics feels like a really exciting next step as you go forward.
It is.
Thank you so much for being with us, for sharing where you are with your business, and for sharing your personal story, Dominique. It's been really, really wonderful and humbling to have you here with us on Reach Live. So thank you so much. So, with that, we conclude our Reach Live session for December. And it would be remiss not to say, wishing you a wonderful festive period, however you wish to celebrate. Hope it's restful. I hope that we see you again in 2023. And we wish you a very, very happy new year. Please subscribe, please follow Reach Live, and we will see you soon. Thank you.